Welcome, everybody. I'm delighted to be able to present the first of our online workshops for 2022. The FIG has been offering these since 2020, when we started the series, to continue to provide our gymnastics community a content with sports science related topics that can serve all of our community. Today, we're going to have online learning on benefits and challenges presented by the Education Commission. Even before COVID, the attention about online learning, we were turning towards it because of flexibility, accessibility, cost efficiency. While there are benefits, we also know in the current shift in education, there are challenges. So today I'm privileged and honoured to be able to introduce to you the multilingual Decca Niamki from the United Wrestling Development Director, who speaks 7 languages. Decca, a Somali and Swiss national, has over 20 years experience in the Olympic movement. She has a desire to make a difference in the sport, development and education area. Since 2017, Decca has been a member and chair of the Development, Education and Education Group for the Association of the Summer Olympic International Federations, a very long term. But all of this, she's a busy mother of 2, balancing her life with passions of sport, music, travel, and learning new cultures. I'm delighted to present to you Decca. Thank you, Decca, for joining us today.
Thank you, Karen. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. It is a great honor and pleasure to be here. So today I will be presenting you the challenges and benefits of online education. We went through a National Federation assessment in 2018. We collected data in order to identify what our national federations actually had, how they were structured, what was their education process. And we know that, for example, in the EU or in the United States or in Canada, the education process is very much structured by the national sporting governing bodies, while let's say 60% of our national federations are actually not having any direct resources, and their national governing sporting bodies are not as structured. So therefore, we really had to make sure through this assessment plan that we would provide tools and resources to our coaches, to our referees, and athletes in a way that we would assess and have one common road together in terms of how do we deliver the sport, how do we federate the sport, how do we structure it, and etc. With this idea in the back of our mind, knowing that all international federations have limited resources in terms of staff, we knew that we were moving to this online education, but we didn't expect it as fast. So COVID-19 arrived in 2020 March, and of course we were all faced with a big question mark. What is next? What can we do during this lockdown time? And how do we continue despite the lockdown? So we were mandated by our president to actually engage our community. We contacted all of our different governing bodies, whether it was the coaches, the referees, all of our educators, to mobilize themselves on the social media and start engaging with our community, because we knew that this would be a very challenging times, and it was the right time to actually bond and continue despite the lockdown through digital. So of course, we already on the social media, we're very much engaged. We have over 1 million followers on Instagram, and as well as Facebook, Twitter. We have a YouTube channel just as Gymnastics, but we didn't develop as much as Gymnastics when it comes to actually embedding our education through online education. So therefore, in 2020 July, we launched our online education platform, and the launch of this platform has about 9 online courses with 44 modules, very similar to what Gymnastics has, a variety of useful resources and technical videos that we actually recorded with our athletes, well-renowned famous athletes, and we also delivered 81 webinars in 5 different languages, and we have study groups from all around the world in different languages to engage and continue the education process of our community worldwide. So very similar introduction to different coaching courses, different level courses, courses specifically for coaches and coaches specifically for our referees, but also for our athletes when it comes to the safety and harassment topics. But also now we're also moving very much forward into gender equality and to diversity. So very big variety of education elements and components that are available to our community that has been highly appreciated. Again, what is the advantage? What I really like about this presentation and this aspect of very similar to what is to the gymnastics, the e-learning approach, is that you have to go through one module in order to access the second module. So this actually facilitates for the educator or the expert, let's say the teacher, to actually follow his student in the different phases and see who is, has some difficulties, who is advancing at a higher speed, and so on and so forth. So it makes it more specific and very individualized when it comes to actually knowing the needs of each individual participating at the course. So this has actually given a great contribution to our educators. And of course, online courses, the advantages, which is also amazing, and we've also received feedback from our community, is the fact that everybody can go at their own pace, at their own rhythm. Most of our members of our community are on a voluntary basis, so they have a job on the side, let's say, and so they can actually progress at their own rhythm without having the stress of participating in one specific course, and that's it, and if you miss it you must wait the next year. No, you can actually progress at your own rhythm beforehand, and afterwards participate at the practical session at some point when he or she has time, or is possible, or it's happening in their national country. The variety of webinars, now it's also another point that actually has completely shifted our community, is actually we can talk about the different topics, whether it's techniques, whether it's a competition, whether it's a rule. There are much greater debates now, and people have a more spoken and outspoken approach of how to actually grow the sport, how to improve the sport in different areas, which really has contributed and shifted the mindset of our community in terms of the development of our sport. And of course now we're also embracing the scientific side, not only focusing on sport specific, but also nutrition, mental well-being, and so on and so forth. So the debates of our webinars are very diversified and interest different type of profiles. So therefore the community has even expanded much more thanks to this digital embrace and digital transformation. However, the feedback from most of our experts and our educators is that the face-to-face will never be replaced. We are sports, we are a discipline with people practicing, and in order for that to happen, the face-to-face still remains. So people really have to understand and learn by experiencing, not only reading, but also experiencing. And this is scientific facts that great scientists and experts around the world have confirmed. So education on the practical side still remains, and we've noticed very well. The challenges we've experienced and we knew that would happen is, first of all, internet connection. So let's say most of Europe, North America, and some countries in Asia have 5G when others don't. So this is something that we also have taken into consideration, knowing that not everybody has access, and of course not everybody has a computer. So some of our students are actually going to internet cafes or borrowing their teacher's laptop and so on and so forth. So we've also have made sure that every student, every participant has access to the information no matter the situation. So we will not penalize one person because he cannot enter online education or the platform itself. We will still send him or he or she, sorry, the emails with the education content on PowerPoint or PDF. Of course, because we need to adapt to the audience. We're federation, international federation, we want our sport to grow. So therefore we will not put any hurdles or obstacles for our participants. And of course, knowing the time zones, this is something that we've also taken into consideration. And of course, some countries such as China or North Korea, they don't have access to YouTube, or even the education online platform, they don't have access to it. So we still manage to ship by mail or provide the educational content on different platforms or via email. And of course, the online education is a contribution and a contributing component to prior or post a course. So first of all, what we do is we have the theoretical part. So the basic knowledge that you can actually learn at home, you can do it online or on paper or on PDF. And then once you come to the course, you do the face-to-face, and the educator assesses the different areas that he or she has noted that the participant needs, let's say, more assistance or more help. And then of course, post, same approach. So the educator, or let's say the teacher himself, has a lot of work to deliver. And of course, this work is time consuming and it's costly, but of course also the online education platform, the maintenance, the improvement, the changes is also time consuming and costly. We've also noticed that our community has a very limitation to only embrace online education. The practical side is still more relevant, I would say, to any participant to really engage and have that bonding moment with the colleagues or the peers. And this is highly appreciated by most of our community. But as I said, it's really a complementary element, not just the only element. Our future steps is translating into other languages, of course, providing as much languages as possible in order to create a greater cohesion for our community, updating and providing as many courses as possible, and of course, embedding courses that are of a common, let's say, interest to all sporting communities, which is the athlete safety, administration, basic administration tools and elements and components. Sustainability now is a very big topic, not only for climate, but also for well-being and human well-being, and of course, safety and harassment, how to protect and how to create awareness around that important topic. So thank you so much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Decca. That was a fantastic presentation, and I know a lot of us will have many questions. I've got a few before we do close. One of the things is, from your background, obviously working in Somalia in the Oceania region, where internet accessibility is an issue, how do you believe we can work through this?
Thank you, Karen. That's one of the reasons why I've always said, yes, online education is complementary. It is an additional benefit and it's cost saving. But in many areas of the world, it is a big challenge. People don't have internet connection. The speed band, 5G is not there yet. Some people living out somewhere in the countryside, it is challenging. So it is complementary, but wherever there is a difficulty or a challenge or a person that cannot access, we make sure to invite that person to a face-to-face course or send them the content via USB key, by post, by any means. But we make sure that anyone facing any challenge has access to that education content somehow, some way.
Thank you, Decca. That's fantastic. And I think I know definitely in the Oceania region and South Africa, there are lots of challenging issues. Another question commonly asked is, how do we make sure that online learning is not just about sitting, listening, and going through the motions? You know, a lot of people sit, we know through COVID they sat, listened, probably with their screen off, doing other things. So how do we as educators make sure it's engaging and stimulating?
Yes, it is. It is difficult. It is a long process from at least what I know from our educators, in order to make sure that the content and the entire of the program is fun and diversified for the participants. There are a lot of apps that have developed now to engage the participants in a way that it's very interactive. But again, it's always a matter of accessibility. So it's also having that Facebook group and having that one person cheering everybody, motivating one another, and of course, creating a dynamic where it's within the national federation or it's within the region in order that everybody can share their story, make sure, you know, there's the carrot and stick approach, let's say. But yes, it's time consuming, but if you really want to see a change and we really want to provide education and accessibility to all of our members at whatever development stage they are, then we really have to make sure to provide sufficient time and adapt to their needs.
I like your terminology about the carrot and stick. I do use that a lot in a lot of references. You did touch on, you know, the different people that you would be presenting to. Is online education different for adults as opposed to children?
We know that the attention when it comes to already a presentation and being seated behind a Zoom presentation is maximum, what, 20, 25 minutes. So imagine a kid that is very dynamic and active. So I think again, the approach has to be very pedagogical. It has to be fun. They have to be involved and in order to play somehow. So it has to be a content and a feature that is playful and not just lecturing. Yeah, it really has to be adapted, and that's why we need people that have experience with children. And we've created educational content that is really focusing on different group ages in order for kids to also have access to wrestling education, but sports in general.
Thank you. I think that's a really valid point as in particular gymnastics heads into the online education in a big way, when we want different target audiences, that we're going to have to adapt our presentations to the target audiences. There's still cynics though, Decca, out there that say you can't replace this online learning with, you know, can't beat it with face-to-face. What do you say about that? Those sort of cynics that say, you know, face-to-face is the only way for education to go?
So as I mentioned, it is complementary. It cannot be the only way forward, because especially we are in sports, and sports, not only do we have to educate, but we also have to make sure that people are safe. And in order to practice the sport, people have to experience it in order to learn what they're facing. I mean, at the end of the day, we want everybody to either be on the mat or on the rings. And for that, it has to be practiced physically, and you have to correct the postures and the positions. So yes, it is complementary. Let's say all the boring or all the basic theoretical content that you could actually learn at home easily. And then when you go to that theory session, it's more about sport specific. It's very high level, and then you can have your exam and so on and so forth. But everything that is basic, I would say you can really count on online education. And even when it's a certification process, at the end, you still have to have that face-to-face. So from our experience with our community, we know that it's complementary. It is not the only way forward.
Thank you. I think that's a really important thing. So we're not going to have death by PowerPoint anymore, hopefully, but we'll be seeing the application of your theory when you do the face-to-face, which is probably for adult learning, probably even more beneficial and has more of an impact. So as you say, it's complementary, but it's probably value adding to our education. Looking at the crystal ball, where do you see education in the next 5 years, and in particular sports education?
Yes, it will. I'm definitely and convinced that it will grow in this direction where more content and more educational resources will be available online. But at the end of the day, everybody has to meet and share experience and learn from one another. You know, we usually say that education is maybe 10 to 15% in the theory part, and 80% is really when you experience and you grasp it and you touch it somehow. So it will definitely grow, but with the current world challenges, I'm even very skeptic of how sports competition will be affected by the fact that traveling now is so expensive, energy prices are so expensive. So probably we'll be moving more into e-gaming. Could that be? Definitely, not sure. There is definitely a scenario saying that that will be one of the new phases and the trends towards the future, and how do we grasp that, and how do we embed that in our current sporting structure and systems. But online education is already and has massively grown, and definitely people will be more and more used to it and adapt to it. And I'm sure that we will overcome also the fact that some people are very reluctant or not so well embracing it. But as you look at the new generation, they've all, I mean, you have a Bedouin or a village, a Maasai who's on his smartphone, you know, making orders in the middle of, of the savannah. So I'm sure within 5 years, things will definitely evolve and technology will only expand and grow. And we just have to be facing the world with all the changes and all the factors that go with it. But it will be part of our system for sure.
Thank you, Decca. A few good points out of that you've said. I think you're saying we need to be flexible. We need to be aware of what's happening. And I think you touched on the job training. I think, you know, that's something that we can't get away from, that probably the best learning is not just at the course, but your continual learning as you go through your journey as a coach and on the job training that you have in the gym every day. Thank you everyone for joining us for our very first online webinar for 2022. We look forward to welcoming you in the next one, hopefully by the end of the year in 2022 or 2023. Just remember to get onto the online platform, the e-learning platform for FIG. There are many courses, some resources, and being updated every day as we speak for more content that's relevant to you, and hope you enjoy. Thank you. See you soon. Bye.